All right, everyone. Good night, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, whenever it is you tune in. Hope everything's going well for y'all. Appreciate everybody tuning in right now. Anybody that was here before, like Dan the Man, glad you're excited about showing up early, man. Means a lot. So, as we wait for more people to arrive, I kind of want to go over maybe a few things that we'll touch on. Get more people over in here. Mr. Motivator. How's it going, my man? Good to see some more people up in the chat. So, another interesting few bits of pieces for the news that came out in the last couple of days. Should probably touch on a couple of them. But the most recent one, I don't know, man. Raise your hand if you saw the video from Mad Mike about Demonte Kazee. Oh, boy. That AJC article was a pain to read. Yeah, it was tough, man. It was also hilarious because he tried to make it like as if he doesn't care about the people that are on his team, and then we see examples of like Calvin Ridley that had to step away from football in order to take care of the mentals. So, how's it going, Atlanta Nation? Good to see everyone here. All right, but yeah, about that KZ video, that was that was interesting. You know, what Matt Mike was saying. Especially like I don't know what Mad Mike has been doing with his video styles. Like he's been doing it with like the all red, like the tint and stuff, making it seem like he's coming up with these rants from the depths of the underworld. The motivated Kyle Pitts, the truth, he sure will be, especially against Sunday. You know, when they gotta figure out how to manufacture just a bit more pass rush. I know that they had a couple of sacks and a couple of quarterback hits against Denver, but Denver was without 4 of their 5 starting offensive linemen. Okay, like DeMarcus Lawrence is not going to play against us, so that's something to take note of. They had a couple of notable people that are questionable with like limited practice, like Cedric Wilson, Ezekiel Elliott, Michael Gallup. Like they're all expecting to play, but point is, we're still healthy too, like relatively so. Like we haven't had a whole lot of like missing pieces that were, you know, like we had a lot of like disappointing starts, but there hasn't been a whole lot of, hasn't been too many injuries, let's say. Like we've had obviously like Isaiah Oliver and, you know, like I said, like the mental stuff with Calvin Ridley, but a part of that, like our team's been relatively healthy. And not only that, but they've been pretty well deep into the depth charts. You think Cordell Patterson will turn back to the Falcons? I hope so, because goodness gracious, if we can't keep him, then he's just going to be wasted on someone else's team that doesn't know how to use him for the umpteenth time. All right. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just that relationship with Dave Ragone. There's something to be said about that because nobody, and I mean not even Bill Belichick, understood what to do with him. Or Josh McDaniels, whatever you want to say. Ezekiel King, how's it going? They say they play they play 60 to 65% in man coverage. You know, and the thing about man coverage is that it's all about, it's not just the matchups, right? It's all about ball placement as well. And come on, like we trust Matt Ryan. If Teddy Bridgewater did it last week, come on. Tony Wright, how's it going? Dante Fowler has practice this week, and hopefully he'll play Sunday. So, yeah, like we're going to be almost at full strength. Now, obviously, we had the release of Jacob Tuioti-Mariner, as well as Cam Nizelek, our punter. Those are a bit odd, but, I mean, especially with JTM. Like, we were expecting more of him throughout the season. And especially with another player, like Mr. Motivator said, Frank Darby. Like, people saw him like itching on the sidelines, getting ready to play. And we're at that moment where basically anybody can step up now. You know, especially when it comes to, jeez, dude, I haven't even done any of this. Especially when it comes to the wide receiver position. Like, that's the perfect position for anyone to step up. It says, look at the last game look at the game from last week. Matt Ryan threw pinpoint passes. Yeah, you know, and like I said, Teddy Bridgewater was able to throw some pretty good passes, deep too. How's it going, Will? Ooh, good to see some more people up in here. Luis, he used to be a Falcons fan for 10 years. Well, let's see how you are about this year. So I was thinking that too, right? Like, obviously, like, it doesn't hurt to have more people on the team, but there's got to be something else to that as an underlying factor. It's not just the fact that he hasn't been getting starts, right? And I don't know if it's just like the matter of, well, he's just too small to play the position. Because if he's too small, then like Michael Walker still lines up in that spot too, and I think he's even smaller than JTM. So I think it's just a matter of what you can do with these players. Calvin Ridley, Mrs. Julio Jones. I mean, that may be true. Well, if it's all Rams, then what are you doing here? Yeah, just kidding. Never played sticky man coverage against Dallas, and it worked. Faked the blitz and only rushed 4. Matty Ice will have to quick snap their defense, which will be fine. You know, that's something that he's done plenty of times before. He's done basically a lot of things plenty of times before. Hard to trick that man at this point. Ryan says Marlon Davidson was invisible for the second straight week. He needs to step. Okay, well, I was watching some film, right? Because I got to do my article every week, and for what it's worth, you know, anyone that tunes in, I greatly appreciate that for the website, because I am literally the only person that updates that website. It's not that he hasn't shown up; it's that he hasn't just shown up in the stat sheet, but he has shown up. Melvin Emery, how's it going, man? Devon Johnson or Devin, you think the Falcons should draft the Joel Georgia front seven? Well, I mean, like I said, like, I don't really focus on college right now. I wait until the season's over and then do my full scouting report there. Because as you can see with like the NFL, weeks by weeks they change, right? And then the more along the season that you progress, those are the ones that are going to matter more. So I want to see the Falcons mix it up and do different stuff. Yeah, that was actually one of the questions that I was going to lead into. Maybe not tonight, but we actually have set up the Saturday night show for all of y'all that are interested in that. It'll be around the same time as this one, so that way we can get Dave on back as our co-host, because that's about been his only time for his activity. Okay. It says, will we see Allison play some versus Dallas? I mean, I'm not against the idea. You know, but especially because of how Denver beat them. It wasn't just through the air. It was also like in the ground game. They almost had 200 rushing yards. And as I mentioned, they didn't have 4 of their 5 offensive linemen. They didn't have Noah Fant, the starting tight end. They didn't have the top 3 pass rushers. Their linebacking core was already depleted, and their top 2 corners were out. That's got to say something about them. It's not just their depth, but it's also like their game plan was able to crush Dallas. So if Allison's going to help us with that, put him in. You know, especially when it comes to the ground game. Yeah, man, we all do. Where are our trick plays, huh? Well, if you consider Felipe Franks lining up at the quarterback position, it's somewhat of a trick play. Um, I don't think that's been necessarily Arthur Smith's game this season. I think he's got to focus on mastering his original game plan before he starts getting cute. College Boy 3 says Fowler's going to wreak havoc. He better. Like I said, we need some more speed around the edge. I was actually seeing some, for what it's worth, I was seeing some assignments that Steven Means was able to pick up. And if Steven Means can do it, by gosh, anybody can. So there was a couple of plays that I pointed out in the article that, these are 5 plays that were pretty underrated. Like, no one really talked about them. But as soon as they happened, they gave us a huge benefit to our team. Trade Ryan, huh? You must be jealous of Matthew Stafford. Stinking an egg against Tennessee, huh? But as far as, gosh darn it, you lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, Steven Means. So there was a couple of plays, right, where we were rushing 4, but there was actually 3 on the line, and there was a linebacker blitzing. So what that looked like was Grady Jarrett was normally lined on the outside, probably facing Ryan Ramczyk, their best offensive lineman, which is the right tackle. You had Ogundeji, you had Steven Means. These were the guys that were going to eat up all the blocks. Crazy as that sounds, right? And then Foye was actually the free rusher, coming from his linebacker position as a creeper. So yeah, like with what you said, like I saw that in practice. Like I saw that put into practice against the Saints, right? There was a couple of plays where Foye and Steven Means, like, they also backed up from the line, acted as though they were rushing, and then the tackles, they had to find another assignment to do. Like, they had to look for someone else to block, which means that they had to put like 2 people on one person, but then that person wasn't getting pushed back. So that allowed other people to win their one-on-one matchups, or even allow a free blitzer. So there are technically some spies, like there are people that are there in order to prevent like the scramble outside. So I think once we were able to do that, we were able to have some more success against the passing attack. Andrew Beto says, no more starting Mike Davis. I'd rather see Wayne Gallman get some more reps. Now with Mike Davis, I have like a harder and harder time to trying to defend him. All I can say at this one is that he's still doing his job in pass protection. Yeah, so you said put a spy on Dak when he's trying to sit in the pocket. The best thing to do is to move him off the spot. Right, and that's what I was talking about. Mike Davis should win well against the Dan Quinn defense. Heck, anybody can, Matt Ryan got a rushing touchdown last week, so let's see maybe a little bit more of that. I'm going to need to play Wayne Gallman and Quadri Allison. One has power and the other has speed back. Play Mike Davis also because he blocks well in pass protection, like I said. Which one's the more speed back? Because Wayne Gallman doesn't strike me as a speed back, and Quadri Allison, like, he had some speed, but I wouldn't consider him a speed back. So I want to know which ones you're referring to. Because, like, Allison had some speed coming out of Pitt, right? But I wouldn't consider him, like, back when we had, like, Javian Hawkins. Like, I don't think that those are guys in the same category there. Yeah, what up, CK22? You're saying put Deion Jones on Prescott as a spy. My question for you back to you is that his best assignment? I know that it can be in his assignment, but is that the best thing that you want Deion Jones to do? Because I think that he is better off doing something else. Okay, so you're saying that one Gallman is. Punch.3 is saying Gallman is shifty, not necessarily speedy. Like there's some guys that are quicker than fast, and there's just some guys that are faster than quick. And then there's the rare breed of guys that are equally fast and quick. Right, like that's kind of what I was alluding to. Like Deion Jones, like his role on the defense is pretty limited when you just resort him as a spy. I know that he's athletically able to be a spy, but I don't know if you're putting your best player in the best position. Because like if speed is your main concern, like a lot of our guys in the secondary have that, and there's a couple of people that are, that are willing to tackle too. So I don't think it's necessarily like a situation where we got to stop Dak Prescott from running, because I don't think that's what he's trying to do. He's going to be a type of quarterback that's going to run in order to look to throw. All right, like if anything, that would be better off if he just started running everywhere, because that limits the amount of yardage he can pick up. Like if he runs for 7 yards on like a 2nd and 7, I'd rather give that up than him throwing deep over our heads for 40 yards. So as long as we take care of our business on the back end, he's not going to have a whole lot of confidence in his ball placement, especially because of how rusty he looked against Denver. So there's that. That's why we need to contain from the edge rushers. Yeah, right. Like a couple of plays, like I mentioned, is Foye and Steven Means, of all people. They were acting as those contains. They didn't necessarily rush, but they were spaced out in between the tackles, and they were also put in a position where they can defend any flat routes. They were able to defend anything else that was going to come out the backfield in case the running back tried to have like a delayed assignment. What are they within the rules? At this point. Goodness gracious, the NFL has gotten like an even worse of a reputation now with their with their rules, especially with that taunting call. Oh my God, John McKimmey, welcome. As long as our secondary has a decent day, I think we'll do fine. Oh yeah, I mean, and it's also just down to like the one thing that I want to focus on is our no huddle defense. Because if you notice, like if you remember, like the Saints, they really couldn't move down the ball. Like they couldn't move down the field. So like that, like the second drive that they had in order to take the second touchdown, there was penalties that took them from the 30-yard line all the way down to our 12. Like that is bad. With the Richie Grant penalty, with the Fabian Moreau penalty, and then with the Foye penalty with the roughing the passer, which was literally just like touching his helmet. It was just unexcusable. Call on Tyrone. What's up? How's it going tonight? I don't think I'm gonna pass on saying your name out loud. What about digs on Pitts? Well, Pitts he's not the most fluid route runner yet. He obviously can get there, but even that was enough in order to outplay Marshawn Lattimore, Marshawn Gravenmore, Marshawn Lattimore. With Diggs, he's a bit too much of a gambler, right? Like the reason as to why he has that many targets, is why he has that many interceptions, is because after all that time, like quarterbacks know that they can have that opportunity to either get like a ground out or a home run against them. So there's that gamble, right? But with a corner like AJ Terrell, for example, nobody even wants to try him. Doesn't matter if it's man coverage or zone coverage. Like he's given up 12 catches all year so far. That is insane. All right. Like I'm not going to focus too much about Trayvon Diggs, all right? Because I trust my quarterback in order to put the ball in the right spot. You know, and as you mentioned, that's a mismatch. Because at the end of the day, like you're just not tall enough in order to defend any high passes. Whew. It has gotten worse, you know. And the thing about it is, like, they're so adamant about making those calls in order to try to get NFL players in order to stop those events from happening. But it's like, what event was happening against Cassius Marsh? Just, oh, geez, I got a flag. You know, it's like, what the heck happened there? Right, you know, there's always that moment, you know, it's like, which time? Which time are you referring to? Yeah, you know, like I said, you can't defend a perfect pass. That's not even my statements. That's not even my words. You know, that's like guys like Dan Marino that were saying that kind of stuff like that. Right. You can't touch the quarterback, but you can apparently step on his hand and not give a crap about that for the rest of the drive. 9-point favorites? Really? Jeez. I guess they just wanted to mind wipe themselves from what happened last week and expected that to not happen anymore. Like, that's a 2-score game. I don't know if they've paid attention to a Falcons game, but we have not made anything a 2-score game. All right, so would you rather face a Dallas team coming off of a win or a tough loss like they did? Motivation might be a little different in either scenario. I really don't care. Just curious on your thoughts. So when it comes to the motivation about a team that we are facing, you know, like when they got smacked in the mouth against an opponent like that, it depends on how that happened to them, right? Like if Denver was healthy and they just had a couple plays go their way and this and that, and it was like a close loss like that, then yeah, I would kind of be afraid of that team. But when it comes to they were unhealthy, Vic Fangio and Pat Shermer, they're not known for having the best schemes. All right. All they had to do was just stick to what worked, and what worked was the ground game, you know, with Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams. Side note, all you fantasy owners, I've been saying, hey, a couple weeks ago, back when I still really cared about fantasy talk, I mentioned to pick up Javonte Williams if you can, and well, you can thank me later. So I think, and I've said this before as well, like if you worry too much about your opponent when it comes to motivation and effort and emotions, like that's when you've already lost the battle, right? When you focus on yourselves, like we just came off a win and we are coming off of mixed emotions, but the mostly positive about our team. Like we're actually having a little bit more expectations, despite what ESPN has been saying, because goodness gracious, we should not be I don't know what happened in their world, but we would not lose by 9 if the score was like 30 to 21 or something like that. Like that's not going to happen. I don't see that happening. I didn't see the Broncos game. Did Dallas lose badly? So when there was 5 minutes left in the game, Denver was up 30 to nothing. Dak Prescott had 74 yards passing in 3 quarters. This is what I always say. If you look at just the basic stats, they're going to mask all this kind of stuff. And they're going to make you think that it was a close game. It was not. There was no part of that game that was close. And the fact that Denver left points on the board with missed field goals as well. So the score could have looked even worse than it did. You know, but then again, like on the flip side, I can't say that we're just going to blow a team out because we would have been able to do that last week. And this is what we're saying. Like, if we learn from our mistakes in as fast as a week, then goodness gracious, look out for us, NFL. But yeah, once we're able to finally close out an opponent and just kill the emotions of a certain player, I think back to last year with Derek Carr, back when we beat the Raiders 43-6. Like, that was not supposed to be a type of win that we were going to have, right? Like, every once in a while, we'll just play out of our minds for a week against an opponent that we normally shouldn't have done that too. And if this can be our game for this season, instead of what happened last week, like, I want this to be the norm, where we can just finally close out games and then make sure that this isn't a close matchup. Right, 2017 deja vu. Falcons were 4-4. Nellis was missing the left tackle, Tyron Smith, and there was kicker was injured. Yeah, I forgot who the kicker was, but yeah, he was out too. Same scenario this time around. Well, same scenario, I would say, that because that 2017 version, they didn't have Zeke either. Got to remember that. But yeah, it was bad. Jetlag 420, how's it going, man? Workflow Dre, good to see everybody here. If we can run the ball in the fourth quarter, we win. See, so is that the equivalent of like putting the foot on the gas? I understand that if we have the lead in the fourth quarter, whether by multiple points or whatever, like if we're up by 1, if we're up by 21, is that the equivalent of putting our foot on the gas, like running the ball? Because in those situations, like, time is more important than the amount of yardage that we get, right? Which is why even though Matt Ryan took those 2 sacks at the end of the game, I would rather have that happen than for him to try to throw an incompletion. So yeah, the Adrian Clayball game. He just destroyed Chaz Green. You never heard of the man since. ChazGreen.exe stopped working. I feel the same way, man. We really do have killer's mentality this year. We hate the media, the league, everyone, honestly. I feel the energy. Did you notice the way Matt exploded at the second touchdown? I don't know if I did, actually. But I know that he kind of does that all the time, When you're as good as that, man, you can explode. I'm not going to finish that sentence. Okay. Our run game has been a bit of an issue. Yeah, like, I think we had 34 rushing yards in the last game, which is as many viewers that we have right now. How you doing? Yeah, Matt Ryan was our leading rusher last week. Oh, boy. Don, you found going dressed up like Claypool. Didn't get to wear his costume. I wish that's the case, man. And I hope that whoever's playing left tackle is going to dress up as Chaz Green. I think we were something similar to that, right? I can't remember. I know that there was a couple, like, last 2 or something games. It was against, like, the Eagles, the Chargers, and the Chiefs. Like, those were our, like, last couple of losses. So, yeah, like, we don't need those quick 3 and outs. Okay, if you're referring still to, like, the end of the game when we have the lead and we're just trying to run up the time, because what's difficult about that scenario, it isn't just so much like, oh, yeah, we just need to run the ball and that'll be it. Because if it's that easy, the defense is going to learn to do that as well, right? They're going to get in a formation where they're going to have to stop the run. And at that point, like, a pass is a little bit too risky, which is why you wanted to go for something that's a little bit easier, like a screen pass and something, which is what we did. And, well, the Aints took advantage of that as well. So it's like they were able to snuff those out. And, when we couldn't complete a simple completion like that because they were expecting too much. Oh, yeah. Oh, man, last thing I remember was getting kicked out of rehab. Oh, really? Oh man, last time I remember anything about you, it was your DWI or your DUI, or I don't know, maybe last time I remember you gave up a 75-yard touchdown right after Trayvon Diggs had a pick six against the Patriots because you blew your coverage. I don't know, man. Last thing I remember was you hurting your Achilles against the Packers, and you rode the bench all the rest of the season. The only thing I remember is, well, yeah, no wonder why you don't have much of a memory. Maybe that's the rehab that's causing you to be brainwashed to remove everything about your 2017 season. You know, the only season you were actually okay. Well, Matt Ryan he's a bit of a different breed of human. All right, because the guy, even though his hand was bleeding last week, the guy just doesn't get hurt. Okay, that is not me knocking anymore. Give me one moment, guys. And we're back. Okay. I feel like us running the ball keeps the game close. But if we keep to our game by picking them apart and run a little, we beat them bad. Okay. Oh, jeez. All right. Yeah. Okay. Running the ball is important, and I think that Dallas showed that they are susceptible to that. So as long as we have those kind of matchups, like we were able to get runs, right? We've done that a couple of weeks ago against the Panthers. I keep losing track of time whenever I say like last week against the Panthers, and now I'm saying a couple of weeks ago. When we faced the Panthers, we were still able to run the ball, and I don't know what happened this week, but well, I mean, even if you take those a couple of interceptions away from the Tampa Bay game, there's still no telling us to what happens then. Because at that point, like, if you take away those interceptions, we were still down 35-25. And at that point, that was just a straight up shootout. But could we win that game? I think we had a chance at that point, but who knows? Something else might have happened that would have been out of our control. We have a run problem. You don't need 150 plus running yards to win, and as long as it opens up the play action, it doesn't make you one-dimensional. Right, like the threat of a run should still be there for a team in order to succeed. Because it doesn't have to pick up a whole lot of yardage. And sometimes you're just trying to get a defense out of a formation. Maybe maybe their defense is constantly playing in nickel coverage, or they're just having an extra defender or like an extra corner or safety, something like that, and you want to bring them out of it or that personnel, so you start running against it. It may not have worked, but the point is you're trying to bring them to get an extra linebacker, an extra defensive lineman on the field in order to stop the run. And then once that happens, then you probably put yourself in more positions to open up your offense a little bit more. Jeez, body is not trying to help me function. Everybody doesn't run the ball effectively, and they won meaningful games. Yeah, I don't know about meaningful. All right, did you see the statistic about how the Jets have more wins against playoff opponents right now than Tampa? Oh yeah. As a matter of fact, I commented on it, saying those exact words. Whew. Yeah, what was that? Geez, let me see if I can find it over here. I am still not used to this side of the thing. Oh, jeez. I think that. Don't worry, guys. I'm getting more used to this side of the stream. If we don't fall on that fumble by the end of the Saints game. Oh, gosh. Please don't bring that up anymore. All right. Yeah, man. I hope CP and Kyle Pitts embarrass. I don't think they need to do that. I think he just did it himself, right? Like the thing is that he's not important enough of a player on their team in order to have like national attention. So he's obviously not going to embarrass himself as much as like, well, I don't know, Aaron Rodgers, but and the whole controversy with that ordeal. But yeah, like not even Cowboys fans remember that he was on the field. They might as well just have thought that they had 10 players on the field at all times. I think people who call themselves fans want to see the worst possible outcome for whatever reason. Well, I mean, you just said it yourself. They call themselves fans, but I mean, we all know the same. We all know the same. I need to have the team's success shouldn't be on their shoulders. Well, I mean, for what it's worth, that we're gonna unfortunately put ourselves in that position anyways. But again, it's just the fact that he can show us time and time again that he's still able to do it, despite how old and whatever, how ancient and decrepit his bones have become, or whatever narrative anyone else is going to try to give up. Right. That's what I was mentioning earlier. Davis has got to play better as well. At least try Gilman out for a few snaps. All right. I mean, if you said that we had that Tampa game, then it's just hard to get momentum over there, you know, even more so than New Orleans because, well, I mean, they had a more well-rounded team. John McKinney said, I think Dak is solid, but if it becomes a shootout, I got mad every time. Well, you may have mad every time, but you have our defense every time. Just know that of the two defenses, I think that we're just slightly better when it comes to like the generic stats, right? But if you were to go by quarter, like what are our passing stats against us in the first quarter, the second quarter, third quarter, that sort of ordeal, we might be looking a lot better than what the original stats say. But it's just the fourth quarter stats, you have to bring that into effect, and then everything just goes to Reese's feces. But everybody keeps giving praises to Tom Brady for his record, but he's playing nobody. Right, like he hasn't had too many meaningful opponents. It's the same schedule as us, essentially. I mean, we're playing in the same division. They got to face the AFC East and the NFC East. They get a couple more like first place or second place teams actually because the Saints won the division. But yeah, like as soon as he plays the Aints, he's 1-3 against them, and that only one win was in the playoffs. Okay. Apparently, my family is still not adjusting after freaking over 10 weeks of doing this. I need Matt Burns to start on 2 touchdowns. Yeah, man, just loosen up the old hamstrings. You got this, buddy. Heck, at this point, we could probably get that type of game from Felipe Franks. just anything to get the run game somewhat intimidating. But yeah, I mean, because they won by 1 point against us last year, right? But I guess some people didn't want to bring that up. Okay, well, you got to understand that our coaching staff has changed, right? A lot of our players have changed. They might actually know the rule book this time. See, you bring up a very good point, and there is a very solid explanation to be said about that. He's the quarterback. Why would it not be on the shoulders? He's the most important position. Yeah, the stats can't account for the Falcons falconing in the late game. Well, as long as because look, for what it's worth, the Bears or the Steelers won the exact same way as we did against the Bears. Obviously, there was a little bit more connotations to that and the controversy and all that kind of stuff with the refs and yada yada. But point is, they were able to drive down the field after their opponent had the touchdown, try to give them the lead and stuff. So with the divisions, with like the way that the schedule works out, there's like a 4-year rotation because of the divisions, right? So every 4 years we'll face the AFC East, for example. You know, it's like we haven't faced them since 2017. Every 4 years we'll face the AFC West and that kind of thing. And then it'll be the same thing for the division in the other conference. And then they're going to pick out randomly a few opponents that kind of have the same position in their division, if that makes any sense. So it's like if you ended up in a third place in your division, everybody else that they would cherry pick from would also be like a third place spot. Super Moon Vibes, what is wavy with you? It says, when it comes to this game slate, who are your starts and sits for the Falcons and Dallas offense? Ooh. You said you have Dak quarterback 2 territory this week. So, man, it's actually it's almost been a while since anyone's actually anything fantasy related. I'll tell you who I have at least, you know, because I'm 8-1, and I think that needs to be said. So I'm starting Matt Ryan. I'm starting Kyle Pitts. And I'm not starting Atlanta's defense this week. Not this week, but I'm going to keep them on my radar. No, it's not like anyone else is going to pick them up, but I did that because I'm actually kind of riding off of the momentum of Tennessee's defense. Because if they did that to the Rams, there's no excuses to why they couldn't be able to do that against the Saints. Right, so as far as sits for both, it's kind of tough. I don't know about Michael Gallup right now. Because when he's questionable, they might limit his snaps just to try to get him comfortable. He might get a few throws early on just to kind of get his feel back in the game for the pace of it. But I wouldn't trust Ezekiel Elliott. I might trust Pollard more, but I still think that you're going to find a better matchup in fantasy. It was crazy how after all these weeks, like James Conner was still available for me in the waiver wire. I mean, that's just me in my league. Obviously, it's going to be different for the rosters, but I also thought that Jeremy McNichols was going to be something, but boy, was I wrong. So hey, maybe Dante Foreman. I don't know. I haven't done as much fantasy research as I was doing in the previous couple of, I don't know, like since last month or whenever I had to adapt because there just wasn't a whole lot of people that were interested in it. I know that there were, but as you can see, it either could have been used to like getting used to me or getting used to the time slot or just getting used to whatever topic I had to bring up. But yeah, it's definitely been a while since I'd answer that question. So I'm not as skilled of knowing. Did him not explosive, his sacks were coverage sacks. Which, I mean, if that's the case, then that really could have happened to anybody. I mean, I say that, and then Steven Means hasn't had more than 6 sacks in this last, 7 years of his career. I like Gallman in our scheme, that one cut-and-go type of back, similar to Tevin Coleman. Surprised we haven't gotten him more involved yet. Well, I mean, this could be the week. I just do think T. That was said. Also, would you do a collab if you had checked me out Supermoon Vibes on Twitter? I don't have. I'm not reliable on Twitter. As a matter of fact, I'm probably not reliable anywhere. And Like, I'm not the owner of this channel and anything like that. So, I mean, if you're after me specifically, like, that's flattering, but I don't know. It depends. You might have talked a little bit more about it. I don't think you've responded since, but if you give me some more details about what it is, then I don't know. We'll see. I just don't think the Falcons give us back-to-back nail biters. Well, ever since week 3, it's been nothing but nail biters. The Titans may have the best team in football right now. They certainly had a win streak that's been impressive, you know, especially when you look at the opponents that they've beaten. Like, they beat, like the Ravens, the Bills, the Chiefs, now the Rams. They didn't beat the Cardinals, but they didn't beat the Jets, but that was about it, you know. And now, I mean, heck, like if the Jets actually had a quarterback, our win against them might look even more impressive. I'm just saying. You ever did the Titans Falcons Super Bowl? Wow. Actually, before the season started, if I just had like an outside projection of anything, right? And I predicted all 285 games before they even happened, right? The more the weeks progressed, the more of a shot in the dark they became, because obviously you just couldn't know about what the heck was happening back on early September when I made the article. But there was actually a pretty good percentage of hits that I had. But my Super Bowl prediction before the season actually started, I was like, hey, if everything stays the exact same as it did in week 1, which obviously wasn't going to happen, but it was just interesting to see like what the turnaround would look like in terms of the schedule and the opponents and whatnot. I actually predicted a Browns-Packers Super Bowl. As crazy as that sounds, right? And they're still kind of in the hunt, right? All right. Artes Network. Talk about the waivers on Tuesday. Well, the waivers that aren't they kind of dependent as the leagues are? Like, I don't think the waivers are the same when it comes to like standard and PPR and best ball and whatever that you have. So I could talk about it. I'm not going to be very accurate with those statements, though. Should we play another running back than Mike Davis? Said play a smoke. Honestly, like the more and more that I like hear about these conversations, especially with the running backs, it's obviously been like a key problem for us, right? But sometimes it's just a matter of like the placement of the run play. Once we get the run plays more off guard, like more unpredictable, I feel like we could be in a better position regardless of who actually has the ball. Now, what did scare me, though, is what Mike Davis did at the end of the game, which I said not to bring up, but unfortunately, if we're going to have more Mike Davis conversations, then I'm sorry, but that's got to be brought up. I mean, Cordell Patterson also fumbled too on the kickoff. At least that one was also recovered by Williams. Thank goodness. But yeah, it's so hard to like constantly wait for his breakout game and then for it not to happen, especially after the season that he had last year against the Panthers or with the Panthers. So the whole coaching and player swaps makes for good Titans and Falcons Super Bowl. I mean, like, if that happened, that would be insane. I don't know if that's breaking news at this point. That's just breaking Neil. So could you get me connected with Mad Mike for fantasy content? Okay, so that's just going on. Okay, so since you use Twitter, right? You are probably more you're better off reaching Mad Mike and Maggie that way, but they are going to answer the question a little bit differently than I could, especially when I'm answering for them, which is not something that I want to do. So, is it possible? Yes. And I'm going to let you know, like, hey, this is the way to go. Like, they're still active on Instagram and on Twitter. You can still probably find them in the comments and on YouTube afterwards too. So like, there's those avenues that you can use. But whether or not they say yes, that's not on me. So it says, I think Kyle Pitts will have over 100 yards Sunday and 2 touchdowns. Bro, that would be fantastic for my fantasy leagues. But yeah, like, especially when the matchups, like, if you put him around in different spots and keep doing that, like, hey, make sure that it's equal amount of times that you're having him in line, in the slot, out wide, and all this kind of stuff. Jay, do you have keys to the game for a W? I actually put them in in like the stream and the live chats back on Tuesday, and I don't remember everything that I put there because it was kind of on the spot for me. But if I had to think about it again, right? So the keys that I would have is oh yeah, one of the things that I remember saying is that we have to do a better job of running a mixture of both man and zone coverage in the same play, right? So what that would look like is that we would have AJ Terrell on an island covering whoever that would be, whether it was the Diggs, Gallup, Cooper, all right? And then on the other side of the field, we can have a little bit more man, or a little bit more zone is what I'm saying. So we can have a little bit more protection for guys like Fabian Moreau, which has actually been doing a little bit better in coverage. You know, despite what that one penalty said about him, that was more of a anomaly, at least in that game. As he had a little bit of a reputation for it, maybe. But all I know is that he is doing a lot better than what I expected him to. You know, I at first didn't really appreciate the fact that he was like given the starting spot opposite of Terrell so early on, and that he was never really like contested for it. But now that I'm starting to see, I'm like, well, I can understand why he hasn't really been contested for it, because as much as what Avery Williams and all these other guys in the slot have done for us, they are still better off like closer to the line of scrimmage, and that guys like Fabian Moreau, who's actually been really good in like stuffing at screens and being not that bad of a tackler now. I do see him improving. I also see the safeties improving a lot too. With Eric Harris being a little bit better in man coverage, he's still susceptible to it. Like there was a couple plays where he was against Adam Troutman, the tight end for the Aints, and he just didn't he didn't win those matchups, especially when they were quick throws. But if he's like pursuing, if he's got to focus on doing it like running an angle, I think I trust him in that. And if I don't trust him, I can especially trust Jalen Hawkins. So I like Davis. He just needs a better line. I think that would still kind of help as well, right? But when you say a better line, you know, that's kind of making it seem like guys like Jake Matthews and guys like Jalen Mayfield and guys like Chris Lindstrom, they haven't been doing their job, which they definitely have. You know, I think that the weaker link, and I still think that he's not that weak anymore, is Matt Hennessy. And even then, like, there was a couple of people that were saying that Jason Spriggs should start at right tackle over Caleb McGarry. So that lets me know, like, we actually have some good quality depth there in case anything happens then. So it's just tough in order to determine that. You had Titans 49ers and then change it to Bills 49ers? Rivers have Super Bowl 55? Wasn't that the Super Bowl that happened last year? Right? Because, yeah, that was last year's Super Bowl. Why would you say that 49ers? Like, why were you stuck on them? Yeah, I definitely would. feel like most waivers come up Wednesday morning. Yeah, I know that that's the case in my league. All right, Peoples, how's it going? I think we might see Allison and Gallman this week, especially because of that. With that disappointing performance of having Matt Ryan be your leading rusher against what might be a playoff team, that ain't gonna cut it. All right, so they're going to match up Neal and Pitts, two Florida guys banging it out, but also crazy this Pitts beat Parsons in high school. I think we see Dallas again in the playoffs, and Pitts does it again. Well, I mean, if the playoffs happen right now, like where would you see us fall in? Like, do you still think that we would be like the 7th seed or creep up into the 6th seed? Because you're also kind of assuming that Dallas would either fall in like the 2nd or 3rd seed as well, so it's like you'd have Arizona at the 1 seed right now. Number 2 seed would probably be Tampa, if not Dallas. And then, like, we'll obviously see like what happens after this week, right? But the 3rd spot would be the Packers, and then like the 4th seed would be. All right, so it'd be Arizona, Tampa, Packers, and then Dallas right there. Something about that. It's hard for me to think on the spot. But with all that, or with all Dallas's weapons at the receiver position, what do you think the chances are we may see in the Sheffield, who's been playing on special teams since his return? See, I don't know if it's more much of like we need to see kind of Sheffield. It's like, has he been stepping up to the point where he deserves to be on the spot over a guy like Avery Williams? Because if that's true, then yeah, I'm not against these kind of players being on the field so long as they can compete. Walker actually was playing this week a little bit more. So I think the cut of JTM would probably mean that we get to see a little bit more Walker. The reason that we didn't have a whole lot of Michael Walker, though, is because he's trying to teeter in between being like the outside linebacker position. And I think the personnel that we had to run against New Orleans was difficult, right? Like James Vaughters came out of nowhere. Anthony Rush had to come from nowhere in order to step up, in order to stop the rush. Like, so it goes down to like who was our opponents, right? If we were putting Michael Walker out, facing a left tackle, like that is a weak spot for us on our defense. I don't want that to be exploited. Like I don't want to see Dak Prescott like see that, oh, we got Mike Walker against our left tackle, like we should run to his side. It doesn't matter that Grady might be like covered left guard. It's just those kind of matchups that maybe Michael Walker isn't the best at right there. And I know what you're saying about, well, what the heck is Steve Means doing on the field? He at least has like his size, like, so as much as these guys aren't going to make a whole lot of highlight plays in order to begin with, right? But at the beginning, and then like week 2 happened, or the whole team died against the Jets. Yeah, I mean 7 seed. Like I said, we would be probably facing like the Packers. Yeah, Avery Williams is doing a really good job. Like I said before on Sunday Spokane Machine, like we don't have to say that he's tough for his size. We just got to tell it that he's tough in general. Darren Hall, geez, that's a name I haven't heard of in a while. I did more research of him than I did on Avery Williams because I thought that Avery Williams had a limited spot as like a return man. Like I thought he was going to be our next Cordell Patterson when it came to like punts and kicks. But now that he's proven himself more than Darren Hall has, and that's kind of making me concerned about what Darren Hall's been doing. Another player I haven't really seen is Taquan Graham, our defensive tackle. Like has he kind of not fit the scheme anymore? Which is kind of interesting considering that we drafted him. I don't know. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting. All right, just take a little break there. I remember my mistake from last week to not have a water bottle next to me. Versatility definitely is key. Like that's something that Arthur Smith has definitely been preaching, and Terry Fontenot as well. Like the more people that you can have that play multiple positions, the better. You know, like we don't have to worry about, oh, is this guy a wide receiver? Is he a tight end? Like, no, you don't have to worry about it. Is this guy a wide receiver or a running back? No. You ain't got to worry about that. Is he a 4-3? Is he a 3-4? No. We don't have to worry about that. Is he a corner? Is he a safety? No. So, Shane Wingett, how's it going? Fingernails gone as well from last weekend. Yeah. Some of them go back, though. And we activated Chris Williamson. He looked good at nickel during the preseason. I think we did at some point. He might have like put him back on the practice squad or something. Terry Fontenot does a lot of musical chairs when it comes to like the back end of the roster, so it's hard to tell at this point. Graham does look like a defensive end, especially because of how beefy you need to be in order to play that nose tackle position. Like, I didn't realize that Anthony Rush was actually that close to Jordan Davis, you know, in terms of size. Like, he's, like, I saw, then I hear, like, Anthony Rush is, like, 6'5", 340. And if you notice Stephen Means running, like, Anthony Rush was keeping up with him. You know, I know that he was just running, like Tom Brady would say, like a dog chasing a car. He was running nonetheless, you know, like he wasn't just giving up on the play. So that shows a lot of effort that was there, too. Draft players second round, just not play them. Okay, well, Richie Grant has been playing, though. And Richie Grant does have a lot of good plays in the special teams as well. So he's not a bust yet. He's just, with three safeties that are just playing out of their minds right now, it's hard to find them some opportunities to play on the field right now. So it's tough, but it's not as though that we're not using them at all, you know. Yeah, that is interesting, you know, when it comes to like who we haven't been putting on the field as opposed to like who we have. I like the raw meat emoji. And to get more beef on the line. Yeah, I mean, I think Graham's only like 307 or something last time I checked, or maybe he's like almost 290. That's not gonna cut it anymore. Especially when like all the guards and centers are like pushing 320, 330. You need someone else in order to match their power. And obviously, there's been a couple of cases where, you know, the smaller defensive linemen can win regardless of like their size because they have technique. But when you're that big, I don't know if you have to worry about technique too much. Especially when your run roll is to just be there, be a boulder in the way of the offense. You know, eat up the blocks, you know, have 2 or 3 offensive linemen blocking for you. 275, really? Is that the last time you went in? Jeez. I mean, I'm not one to talk. Like, I'm almost reaching out. But, no, I'm not that bad. But, yeah, that definitely ain't gonna cut it. You know, I want our defensive tackles to look more like Matt Ryan's passing yards, like 343 and something like that. I want us to weigh our defensive linemen by the thousands. Just put a 90-inch flat screen TV full of muscle. just block everything, right? Just get in the way of everything. Unfortunately, that's not my question to answer. You know, that's completely up to him and his family. I'm gonna leave it at that. I don't want to worry too much about Calvin than I need to. But just so you know, he's got to take care of himself. You know, whatever the case may be. And we as fans, we got to support him in his decision to do that because at the end of the day, he's a person just like every one of us. You know, who hasn't had their bad days off? Who hasn't had their emotional turmoil where they needed to just take a break from everything that they've been doing? You know, sometimes, hey, sometimes this right here, this could be your mental break from reality, from outside of whatever you've been doing. You know, I at this point, it's kind of been that way for me. So other than running the football consistently, we definitely need to get Hayden Hurst more involved in the offense. Yeah, I do like, especially that one catch and run that he had in the red zone. Like that was pretty cool. That was pretty cool. Helping Matt Ryan get to that point where we can just run it in with his legs. Fowler, Grady, Rush, and Davidson at defensive end is the best defensive line rotation to me. And then it's not just that; it's also guys like Botters, Ogundeji. You haven't mentioned him. You know, like there's a couple other people too. You know, and you need that rotation of like 7 or 8 guys, especially at the D line. They get tired out a little bit more often than anyone else, especially because you know how big they are. When you're that big, your stamina is going to be a little bit of an issue. AJ Terrell and all pro, no question. He's got to be. You know, like what he's been doing so far, he needs to be recognized a little bit more. You know, say whatever you want about the PFF grades, but he is right behind Jalen Ramsey as like the second best corner in the league right now. Like I said, he's only given up 12 catches for 74 yards and maybe 1 receiving touchdown. Like that corner route against Marcus Callaway that happened. Like the difference with that is that they were in zone coverage, and Marcus Callaway was in the slot. He ran a corner route to the back of the end zone, obviously. But what was underneath that route was a flat route. I'm pretty sure it was like the tight end. He's either like a tight end or fullback. Well, someone else would have been open, is what I'm trying to say. And when you're in the zone that AJ Terrell was in, there is nothing you can do, right? When you're that close to the line of scrimmage, or when you're that close to the goal line, you have to make the decision to commit to the corner and then just let the tight end walk right in front of you for the score, or you protect the corner or you protect the tight end and then just let the ball go over you. Or what actually happened was that he tried to do his best in order to take both options away, which at this point, not even Deion Sanders can do that. So there was a bit of a struggle with that. You know, they put him in a situation where he was the only closest defender in proximity to them, so they had to place the blame on someone, so they did it to him. It's not really his fault. It could have been a busted assignment by someone else, but they fell on him. Falcons starting to look good. Like Steele in the draft in last year's draft class for us. He's the reason why Grant and possibly Hall are not playing. Well, Darren Hall is more of a corner, but I see what you're saying. He's got his hot hand and he's doing his job. Exactly. Oh yeah, Brandon Copeland. He had a couple of good plays. Sealing the edge and getting some pressure. I knew those guys have been starters. Oh yeah, definitely. What do you think signs Odell? Whew. That has been an interesting question. Because, like, it's been said that he wants to go to the Packers. People are having a lot of feelers out for the Patriots for whatever reason. I don't know if he fits the Patriots. I know, like, from a team building standpoint, and from what projects that Bill Belichick has dealt with in the past, with a guy like Randy Moss, with a guy like Chad Ochocinco, with a guy like Dante Stallworth. He's taken in some of these guys before, right? But it's a bit of a different story. Like, he obviously can get open. You know, his father proved that instead of himself. But it's just the chemistry. Like, you have to build around a guy like that as a decoy type of player. So once he learns to humble himself and put himself in a position where he doesn't have to be the number one receiver so that he doesn't have to get stopped every week, it's a bit of a difficult situation there. You know, and it's also a matter of, like, how much money is he going to ask for? You know, there's only a couple of teams that can pull out that type of cash, and I don't know if Green Bay is going to be that type of team, knowing with everything they got to deal with with Aaron Rodgers, knowing that they got to re-sign Devontae Adams, or maybe they already did, but there's not going to be any other receivers that are going to last after this season for them. When it comes to the Patriots, like, yeah, like I said, like, from a roster standpoint, it could make sense. But there's a bit more of a caveat to that. Kansas City? I don't know if Kansas City can be fixed by signing yet another receiver. That team is lazily getting wins, and I don't know how. Falcons can sign OBJ if Green Bay offering vet minimum, and if slide, it comes back. Like I said, from a roster standpoint, you know, there's a reason as to why he hasn't taken up that offer, though, for that vet minimum. I don't know if he wants that. Like, he's got a reputation in the league, and he's trying to hold on to that because, well, that's what's giving him the money. You know, like, Ryan Peele was saying that Kansas City needs an offensive line. They obviously need help on defense. And that's not just structural. That's also a talent problem. You know, so yeah, sign him to a hockey team. Said, can't wait to see Marvin Hall torch the Cowboys. I can't wait to see Frank Darby do something. For sure, everyone's in agreement of that one. Arian said he's already got A, B, and TB, so yeah, you don't want any more letters. A, B, N, TB, said by BA. It is definitely, yeah, it is definitely chap and lip season. All right. Oh, how many of you guys have heard about the Dalvin Cook situation? Right until the answers fill up the screen. Because that situation is weird. It's unnatural. Seems to be a bit of a latency there. So, for anyone that's unfamiliar with the story about Dalvin Cook, the first bit of information that was noted by, like, Adam Schefter was that he was the victim of domestic violence, and that he was, like, maced and held hostage at his own spot with a firearm by, like, a former military woman, which was later mentioned to be his ex-girlfriend. Because, well, it's kind of the other way around. So it's like there is a bit, like, It's hard to say. Right? All right, I'm gonna try to relay this in my head as much as I can. If not, I'll just go back to where I found the source from. Because it was definitely weird when I saw it. Hang on, I'm gonna try to get to it. Oh no. I should have been prepared with this. I was yeah, I'm gonna help you out with that as well. So where is it? Come on. Meantime, anyone else that's still waiting around, yeah, I don't know, pretend like there's some lo-fi music playing. Cheat. Oh my gosh. All right. I'm getting close. Okay. So, back. Got the research. Okay. And I quote. Just going to read this as is. Dalvin Cook's ex-girlfriend attached the following Instagram conversation in her lawsuit against Cook regarding assault. So let me read as is. Let me read the conversation that was said. All right. So this was the first part of the conversation that I can see on my end, which it would be Dalvin Cook. So it's kind of like in the middle of an argument or conversation, but all I see is, I know what I did can't be rewind, but I just want you to know I'm sorry. I love you so much, despite you thinking I don't or never did, but I do. I said it like that because there's no punctuation. Whatever you need, I'm here for you. And if you want to go to the police, I'll respect that. I'll take my punishment for what I did. End of that text. Then the ex-girlfriend made a text. And she said, Dalvin, my face is so messed up, I probably won't even get to go see my family for Thanksgiving. And then there's like the crying emoji or sad emoji, something like that. Dalvin responded with and I'm sorry for that, but the situation just got out of hand from the jump. Another text. Can you come back to me? And then she uploaded about an initial picture and then like a video, which I can't see the video because, well, obviously it's not my phone. But that was the text conversation, right? Moving along with the rest of the research, it says Cook's ex-girlfriend claims that Cook got angry when she asked for his help in gathering her things. Cook, quote, grabbed her arm and slung her whole body over the couch, slamming her face into the coffee table and causing her lower forehead and the bridge of her nose to bust open, end of quote. Dalvin Cook's attorney says Cook was the victim of assault that night, and he was defending himself after she entered his home without his consent, punched and maced him, then held him hostage with a firearm. That's bad. On both ends. And like I said, like, it's unnatural, right? I don't know if anyone cares about my responses to this, but hey, I'm gonna bring it up. It's my stream. I do whatever I want. So my initial response to this was, everything about this is just unnatural. The conversation, the setting, the way the information is carefully described in order to be vague, the order of events in both sides of the story, and how one side got out almost immediately after this other. I don't know what to think of this yet. So I had a couple of questions that I wanted to just throw out there, right? So I was like, how come Dalvin barely uses any punctuation when he just graduated from Florida State a few months ago? Like, that type of talk is not what you would expect from someone that, I don't know, went to college. You know? Why is this taking place on Instagram? You know, if they're ex-girlfriend or something, I understand that, but I don't know, maybe if you block them from your phone number, you don't want to see her again and that kind of stuff. But why is this happening, right? Why is the only thing she's concerned about is visiting her family on Thanksgiving and not getting angry over her condition? That was my next question. Like, oh man, I'm not even gonna be able to see my family for Thanksgiving, and she's sad about that. And I'm like, okay, well, you don't seem to be so overly emotional about this to the point where this needs to be on a broad spectrum as it is. You know, I was like, why would anyone use an emoji in this scenario? Like, if you're that serious about like what happened, like you wouldn't be like, oh man, boo hoo, oh poor me. Like, if that happened to me, like, I am not going to be, you know, using emojis in order to text about like what happened if I was a victim of domestic violence, whether it was small, unintentional, or massive and or purposeful. You know, like I'm not gonna text this kind of stuff to them. And why would I send pictures to the person that obviously saw me? That obviously saw me get hurt because he was there. He was the reason that caused that, right? And then the other thing was, who the heck gets that mad to grab stuff when your job in the NFL is to carry things? Why does this escalate to the point where mace and firearm need to be brought into this relatively small ordeal? If he accidentally threw you over a couch and you busted your head open, that's something that a child might have happen to them from the parent. You think it's necessary for a kid to just, I don't know, grab the freaking SWAT team and the K9 unit into this? Where's the line of thinking there? You hold him hostage in his own spot. He's an NFL running back, mind you, which means that he's probably known for breaking out of, I don't know, hostile, difficult situations, given that his whole career has been based off of breaking out. At least in Dalvin's case, we don't know the layout of the furniture in order to get an idea of how much force was used and what his intentions were. Everything about this was, like I said, unnatural. So I still don't know what to think of this, but it is just not. There's something that just doesn't click right in that story. So yeah, I don't know if I have like my rant for the week, but I don't know. Maybe that's it. I seem to have like a rant every single week about something that I never planned on having. This is definitely an unplanned event, right? Let's go back to football because I've already lost a lot of viewers in that. I really think that the Falcons ought to sign Bradley Anae, who the Cowboys released last week. He has pretty good pass rush moves when it comes to playing at Utah. I was drafting him in 2020 draft in the third round. I really wanted to see the draft Falcons drafting. Well, we'll have to pay attention on that name. But I don't know. Sorry if I made anyone uncomfortable with that story, but oh, how do you not get uncomfortable when we're talking about the NFL? I kind of agree. I still think that if there's any moves to made to give us any slight advantage than we had the week before, we can go ahead and do it. Nothing happened about like his roster, like his placement on the roster of the depth chart. Because so another thing to add to the story, this apparently happened last year. So why does it come up now? It's just, it's crazy. I think about that is crazy, but Whew. And I really want to be able to say like, oh hey, thank goodness we don't have any kind of egos and personalities like that. But I don't know, like we don't have all this intel about these players from behind closed doors. If they're much more than 34 yards, it's not gonna cut it. Yeah. I mean, we've already kind of had this extensive conversation about this this whole stream basically. Yeah. It's going to be to this point where it's like Derek Carr is the only person on the team at this point. Like whenever the Raiders play anyone from like the next year, they're just going to have a game of 3 flags up where Derek Carr is the permanent quarterback. Jeez, I feel like the more times I drink, the more thirsty I end up getting. I don't know what kind of cycle this is, but whew. All right. So like I said, we are going to have more discussion. We actually did confirm the Saturday night stream because I might cut it off right now or in a couple minutes because I wanted to keep a little bit more of a conversation with me and Davon and the rest of y'all. So that way we can have a little bit more of interaction there. We are not going to have a 6-man convo with K Styles tomorrow, but you can check out Twisted's other. Oh, geez, excuse me. You can check out Twisted's other stream that's going to be a little bit earlier in the day. I think he said like 1 or 2 p.m. that he might have with another visitor. Obviously, we got the Friday Night Madness, and then, like I said, we'll have our stream on Saturday night. Also, Right Play Sports with Magnus in the game in Saturday mornings. Ooh, I think that might have to do it for me this time around. Thank y'all so much for keeping up with me. Ooh. I think I killed the stream with the Dalvin Cook conversation. Oh, but boy. All right. I'm gonna say this off. Like, any last thoughts before we close out the show? Any last things you want to get off your chest? Any questions that could concern the Falcons, the Cowboys, myself? Answer them quickly. All right, man. Take care. See you at the next stream. Anybody else? I'll give y'all like the 2-minute warning. I don't know. I don't know if I'm catching these like at the time y'all hit enter, but try to keep it so quiet. Ooh, let's see. All right, 1 minute left. Hey, thank you. Appreciate it, man. Whew. Final thoughts, questions, concerns. I don't know what else to do. Oh yeah, check out my article. All right, like I said, I only have like 5. I only talk about 5 plays, but those are the 5 plays that got us the win that nobody wants to talk about. No, just that the Cowboy fan base is, well, that. That's right. They don't deserve a winner, so we're not going to let them have one. All right, guys. Appreciate you. And see ya soon.